Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's NewsStand, and I did get a special opportunity to talk to Mr. Doug Ernst about his current IGG campaign for his comic book SoulFinder, and I wanted to make sure I said all the links would be in the pinned comment and the description if you were interested in checking his book out, and I will put also links to his YouTube channel and social media so you can check him out. And I wanted to give a huge special thank you to Doug for giving me this opportunity. I'm really excited for this campaign. So here we go. Hey guys, this is Tristan with Nerdette's NewsStand, and I actually have a special guest for my Indie Spotlight. I have Doug Ernst, and he is doing a IGG for his new comic book, SoulFinder, Demon's Match. And he is the writer, and he has Timothy Lim, a seriously talented showcase here. Colorist Brett Smith. It was absolutely amazing. He's got a cover by Dave Dornan, but I am going to let him tell you about it. Can you tell us a little bit about, the synopsis of the story and about the campaign itself?
Sure, no problem. So for those who are unfamiliar with the campaign or the story, it's about a character named Father Patrick Redder, and essentially in this world it's a bunch of combat veterans who went into the priesthood. They became exorcists, and then at some point in time, if you meet those requirements, then usually you are recruited to become part of a major order of exorcists called SoulFinders, and they take on levels of evil that are pretty much unknown to most of the world, even other priests, because they need to have a very special skill set in order to be able to take on this kind of evil. And having been on the battlefield and seen the horrors of war, that's exactly, it's like the perfect resume for this particular job. And so this tale involves, again, Father Patrick Redder, and it's basically his sort of journey into becoming part of the order of SoulFinders. He's initially kind of reluctant to do so, but as he's investigating a series of deaths in this small town called Steepleton, Maryland, he gets in over his head. There's a SoulFinder called Father Reginald Crane. He's a Vietnam veteran who tries to recruit him, becomes basically a mentor, and like I said, it's essentially Father Patrick Redder's slow realization that he must become a member of the SoulFinders.
That is absolutely amazing. As far as the campaign goes, I know it has 12 days left, and last I looked, it just had hit 17K. So, as far as the tiers go, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I seen the top tiers were all, sold out at this point, and it's huge. It's like 56 pages, I think, or is it more? Tell us a little bit about the campaign.
It's a 56-page story, but then we have 8 pages of additional bonus material, which I'm going to write a little bit of an afterword, and then we have the quote-unquote art of SoulFinder. So we have additional artwork by Matt Weldon, who's a great artist, and then the concept art both from Dave Dorman and Timothy Lim, from this sort of my initial conception of these characters to what they became.
And when I was looking at the campaign, the first page, and I think it was just some guy, had talked about the first page and how absolutely amazing it was. Well, I seen that you had said that it was going to say, something along the lines of, why do bad things happen to good people? Are you going to be able to answer that question within the story, or is that something just to kind of provocate the reader?
Sure, so I talked about this with Tim recently, because I believe that the question was essentially answered without words in many ways throughout the course of the tale, but looking back on it, we were like, no, we need to actually figure out a way for those who didn't get it through the actual content itself. Right. And some of the more sort of subtle ways that it was the message got across. We went back and then we sort of made an edit to the very last page to basically, that was like the period at the end of the sentence, the punctuation mark, to let people know, in case you didn't get it, this is actually why. So it's a self-contained story. It sets readers up for future installments. That's what we would like to do.
Right.
But in many ways, that question is answered over the course of the story.
I love that. I think that's great, because I know that you, and speaking of Tim Lim, are both Catholic. And I don't know about Brett, but my question was with this, and I love every bit of this concept. So any denomination, any faith, are they going to be able to pick this up and enjoy it themselves?
Yes, I hope so. Well, I think so. I ran it by a few people, pretty sharp dudes, and they gave me feedback. And actually, when I first gave it to Tim, he said that what he liked about it was that while it was informed by the Catholic faith, it wasn't weirdly preachy or anything to alienate people. And so it's just a story. They are Catholic priests, but that's in some ways the extent of it. So yes, they have to act in accordance with the church's teachings, but it's really in many ways more about brotherhood, about camaraderie, about the importance of good male role models, the importance of fathers, the importance of just good parents in general, and what happens if one of them is absent for any number of reasons, whether it's a parent maybe passes away early while somebody is a child. There's pictures on the Indiegogo page where you can see a little child. Won't get too into it, but obviously something happened to this child at some point in time, and it has residual effects throughout the course of his life.
All right, I love that. Okay, so this is not the question to ask next after how you just explained it, but was there anything within this book? What was your draw from inspiration? Was it something personal? Was it something, outside of you, just creativity?
Sure. Well, like you said, I am Catholic, so that definitely has informed the book, and my worldview in general is sort of viewed by that. But in terms of the comic itself, initially, I guess if you just go to like almost the root cause of it, I was tired of comic books where the lines between good and evil were just constantly blurred to the point where, to me, it's almost pointless. You just have anti-heroes that are essentially pretty much as bad as the quote-unquote bad guys. And so one way to sort of solve that quote-unquote problem for me is having demonic forces, which are clearly evil, go up against a priest who, in this particular story, happens to be a good man. He has his own issues, he has his own psychological baggage, but he, at his core, at his heart, he's a good man, and he's trying to do right by his family, his community, his peers and colleagues within the church. But obviously he has many, many challenges, including those that are outside forces, supernatural forces that are trying to drive a wedge between him and his vocation, which is the priesthood.
Is there any, to compare this to, is there any book, any movie, any series that's out now? When I first looked at this, I was thinking, are we looking at Hellblazer? Are we looking at Preacher? Are we looking at something like that? Is there something that I would pick up and enjoy nowadays that I know I would enjoy your book?
Sure. Well, I think there's tonally probably a relationship between the Constantines and things along those lines.
Okay.
But like I said, this particular hero, he is not like... When I look into a lot of the supernatural fare, it seems like a lot of times you have characters that they're not even Catholic priests, but they're performing exorcisms. Or, like I said, they might have so many issues where, for all intents and purposes, they're just like a few degrees away from the demons that they're exorcising from people. So, like I said, I wanted to have an actual Catholic priest performing exorcisms on demonic forces. And so in that sense, I guess it's a little bit of a departure. But again, tonally, I think people of all faiths can relate to this particular story.
Okay, well, that totally makes sense. So, you're obviously a writer. In terms of Comicsgate, we see generally more artists. Did you face any challenges along the way? Any speed bumps, anything like that, as a professional writer, instead of, where we do mostly see a lot of artists.
I guess, I mean, in terms of actually the logistics of getting it created, or just, I guess, I don't know, I'm not quite sure.
I'm sorry. No, I just mean, okay. Did you have any issues, you know, along the way? Was there anything that could have prevented this from being made ever?
In my mind, whenever I see an obstacle in my way, I just keep trying to find a way around it, over it, whatever. Just find some way to take that off the table, or there's an alternative somewhere to make it happen. And so, yes, there were random obstacles that came up, but at the same time, if somebody really wants to make something happen, then they're going to find a way to make it happen. It might take 10 years. In many ways, this book, you could say that it's the culmination of nearly a decade of covering the comic book industry on my blog and YouTube and on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So it didn't just happen over the course of a year. It's almost the sum total of all these sort of events leading up to now.
And that totally makes sense. So, as a writer, we're going to keep with this writer theme. Whenever I've done comic reviews or anything like that, I've said, you know, like, you, as a writer, looking at how they write, it's kind of almost a window into their soul. Also, some writers say, you know, I've used it as therapy. Even Tom King himself, you know, said that the only thing you bring unique to the character is yourself, your personal life experience. Did you draw from personal life experience, or any traumatic event, any experiment, story that, you know, happened in a friend's life? Was there something along that lines, or was this just pure creative process?
Yeah, I have to be careful about how I talk about this. I don't want to turn it into an Oprah moment.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
There are elements from my own life that I helped draw and bring into this particular story. I think, like I said, why do bad things happen to good people? That's kind of a universal question.
Right.
One of the themes that I wanted to explore was that there is virtue to be found in carrying our individual crosses with grace and dignity. So everybody has their own crosses to bear, whether it's yourself, a family member. Bad things have happened to somebody that you know. If you've been walking around the earth for any length of time, something bad has probably happened to you, and maybe something incredibly traumatic along the way. So that is a question, especially as a Catholic. Again, you want to examine your own faith. I want to put my own faith up to the toughest test possible to make sure it stands up to those sort of arguments. So I asked myself a lot of hard questions, and like I said, that was one that I wanted to cover in this, because especially anybody who's agnostic or atheist, to me, they're going to want to know that question. And it's one of those where people have asked for ages, you know, if God exists, why do little kids get cancer and die? Those sorts of things.
And in the book, I know there is a spiritual realm that has to do with the match. Not without giving obviously too much away, what exactly are we looking at as far as this spiritual realm?
Sure. So when these matches are struck, you essentially are taken into this realm, and it's a realm that's sort of occupied by a demon called Blackfire. We go by his Greek name, but I cannot pronounce that properly.
Okay.
But I did vet it with somebody who is from Greece to make sure that I spelled it correctly. And but anyway, when you are on the demon's turf, essentially, they can exploit your deepest, darkest fears, your worst anxieties, traumatic events that you've had in your life. So Patrick Redder is an Iraq-Afghanistan war veteran.
Right.
Father Reginald Crane, he is a Vietnam veteran. So if these demons want to sort of, like I said before, drive a wedge in between you and your faith, that's where they're going to want to go, where you're psychologically weakest and where you might have your doubts. Even people of faith, it's not that they have blind faith, and sometimes your faith really is challenged. And so that is with these particular demons. If they want to stop a SoulFinder from doing his job, if they want to destroy a SoulFinder, they're going to go to their weakest psychological and spiritual points.
I believe that is all the questions I have for you, because everything you answered within. I am going to put, obviously, the Indiegogo link in the description below, and I will put links to your social media and your YouTube channel. Not that that's probably not pretty obvious, but I really, really appreciate you doing this interview for me. And as like I'm saying goodbye, is there anything else that I would have missed as far as story-wise, as far as components within the IGG that the viewer should know?
The only other things that's not particularly story-wise is possible international customers. I would just ask that they email me at Ernst at douglasernst.blog. I'm taking care of all U.S. logistics first, and then I am coming to the international customers that email me, and then giving them my undivided attention. So there's that, and you asked early on about the different tiers. So currently there's still the $15 tier, which is Clergy, which is basically just the book, and then there's also the $20 tier, which is Exorcist, and you get a gold-leafed card with the Dave Dorman cover on it, and the actual book itself. The other tiers currently are out, but we may actually, there's been some questions about adding extra autographed copies to another tier, and so that may happen in the near future.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. I am so looking forward to this one. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks again.
Bye. That was an absolutely amazing opportunity. So again, a huge thank you to Doug for doing so. And make sure, like I said before, the links are in the description and pinned comment. So make sure to check that out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey guys, if you want to help support the channel, make sure you check out my Patreon and my Subscribe Star links in the description. And I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my Patreons, Black Knight Fool, and Jeffrey Allen Carnes, and Robert. I appreciate everything you guys do to help out this channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.